Buenos días y bienvenidos a nuestro Simposio Internacional, la Economía China en la post-pandemia, Tendencias, desafíos e impactos en la economía mundial, organizado por el Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico de la Universidad del Pacífico. Para el buen desarrollo de la sesión, les solicitamos que mantengan su cámara y micrófono apagados mientras se realiza la presentación. El evento de hoy contará con traducción simultánea. Para acceder a la respectiva traducción, deberán seleccionar el idioma en el que desean escuchar la ponencia desde el botón que se encuentra en la parte inferior de sus pantallas, identificado con el icono de un mundo. Para dar inicio a nuestro evento, invito a José Carlos Feliciano, subdirector del Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico. Adelante, por favor.
Muy buenos días, estimados participantes. Sean bienvenidos al Simposio Internacional La Economía China en la post-pandemia. Tendencias, desafíos e impactos en la economía mundial. Mi nombre es José Carlos Feliciano Nishikawa, soy el subdirector del Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico y moderador del presente evento. Antes de iniciar con la agenda respectiva, me gustaría recalcar el anuncio que mencionaron anteriormente. El evento cuenta con traducción simultánea español-inglés. En ese sentido, los presentes pueden habilitar el canal de interpretación en el icono del mundo para escuchar el idioma que deseen, ¿no? Iniciando con esta sesión de apertura, tenemos en primer lugar las palabras de bienvenida del doctor Felipe Portocarrero, rector de la Universidad del Pacífico, quien ofrecerá el saludo institucional a los presentes. Adelante, estimado Felipe.
Gracias, José Carlos. Muy buenos días con todos y con todas. Muy buenas tardes con los colegas chinos. Señor embajador de la República Popular China en el Perú, excelentísimo señor Song Yan. Doctor Xu Bin, profesor de Economía de la Cátedra Wu Jinglian de China Europe International Business School, CEIBS. Señor embajador Alan Wagner Tizón, exministro de Relaciones Exteriores y exministro de Defensa del Perú. Señora Tao Fenghua, gerente general del ICBC Perú Bank y presidenta de la Asociación de Empresas Chinas en el Perú. Señores embajadores y miembros del Servicio Diplomático del Perú, miembros del cuerpo diplomático acreditado en nuestro país y representantes de organismos internacionales. Señores funcionarios y representantes de gremios de empresas nacionales y extranjeras, colegas académicos del Perú, América Latina, China, Asia, Pacífico y estudiantes presentes en esta reunión. Señoras y señores, amigas y amigos todos. Me es muy grato darles la bienvenida a este simposio internacional, evento que se realiza en el marco del 60 aniversario de nuestra universidad y que es organizado con el CEIBS de Shanghái, institución fundada por el gobierno chino y la Unión Europea, que destaca como una de las mejores escuelas de negocios de Asia. Siguiendo la consigna de CEIBS, de China Depth Global Breadth, y la vocación de la Universidad del Pacífico de formar líderes con propósito para el mundo, este simposio internacional ha sido diseñado con el objetivo de brindar un panorama amplio, basado en el conocimiento bien informado de un tema de la más alta importancia, como es el futuro de la economía china y su impacto sobre los mercados globales. Para este fin, tendremos el discurso inaugural del embajador Song Yan, quien nos honra con su presencia en esta ocasión. La conferencia magistral del Dr. Xu Bin, que nos mostrará las tendencias de largo plazo y los impactantes logros de la economía china, así como su estado actual en el periodo de la llamada nueva normalidad, como se conoce a esta etapa de crecimiento en la que se registran menores tasas que en el pasado, que ojalá fueran las nuestras, dicho sea de paso, las del Perú. Asimismo, el doctor Xu Bin abordará la transición de China hacia un modelo de desarrollo basado en la innovación y en un mejor balance entre el consumo interno y el mercado global. En un sentido similar, tendremos también la oportunidad de reflexionar sobre los principales conceptos y objetivos de la llamada nueva era, que corresponde al periodo de liderazgo del presidente Xi Jinping. En este marco general, adquieren especial relevancia los grandes lineamientos de política abordados en el 20º Congreso Nacional del Partido Comunista Chino, que tuvo lugar apenas la semana pasada. Este órgano partidario se reúne cada 5 años para hacer un balance de lo avanzado, marcar el rumbo futuro de China y definir la estructura política del país en los años venideros. La fecha en que se realiza este simposio internacional, por su cercanía con la finalización del 20º Congreso, es entonces una ocasión privilegiada y propicia para analizar sus alcances y repercusiones. Luego de la exposición del Dr. Shubin, escucharemos los comentarios de un panel de expertos integrado por el embajador Alan Wagner, que nos proporcionará una mirada geopolítica del rol de China en el escenario internacional, la señora Tao Fenghua, quien brindará una visión desde la perspectiva del sector privado chino, y por último tendremos a los doctores Ginkgo Bilkerit y Rosario Santagadea de nuestra Casa de Estudios, quienes aportarán una mirada desde la academia a los temas en discusión. Debido a la importancia de China para la economía peruana, entender y conocer el panorama de mediano y largo plazo de ese país es de la más alta importancia, pues lo que ocurra con China incidirá en las decisiones de política y en las estrategias empresariales de nuestro país. A lo largo de más de 50 años, nuestros dos países han establecido lazos económicos sólidos desde el proceso de reforma y apertura de China, que originó su notable crecimiento en casi 10% en promedio durante más de 30 años. Crecimiento que se vio reflejado en una creciente demanda por recursos naturales del Perú, que el Perú exporta hacia China y que contribuyen a dinamizar nuestra economía. En este progresivo pero sostenido crecimiento entre ambos países, en el 2009, nuestros dos gobiernos firmaron también un tratado de libre comercio, el cual permitió incrementar las exportaciones no tradicionales del Perú hacia el gigante asiático e impulsar la relación bilateral entre los empresarios de ambas partes. China, que duda cabe, es actualmente nuestro principal socio comercial y también una de las principales fuentes de inversión en el Perú, sobre todo, aunque no exclusivamente, en el sector minero. En 2013, China y Perú acordaron el nivel de relaciones diplomáticas al de asociación estratégica integral, expandiendo las áreas de cooperación mutua, y en el 2009 el Perú se unió a la iniciativa de la Franja y la Ruta, o Nueva Ruta de la Seda, una de las principales plataformas globales de China en materia de cooperación internacional, con base en el desarrollo de infraestructura para la conectividad. Conferencias como esta ofrecen una oportunidad de aprendizaje y reflexión sobre las perspectivas futuras, los escenarios y las estrategias claves de China que, según diversas proyecciones y fuentes, podría convertirse en un plazo relativamente breve en la principal economía del mundo en términos del tamaño de su Producto Bruto Interno. Desde luego, ello incrementará nuestros niveles de interrelación con la economía china y planteará también un mayor desafío, si cabe, el desafío de construir una agenda común de desarrollo para la cual es necesario el mejor conocimiento mutuo. Dicho esto, permítanme destacar finalmente el papel que desde hace casi una década ha cumplido la Universidad del Pacífico en la generación de conocimiento relevante sobre China y el Asia-Pacífico. En efecto, hace ya casi 10 años, la Universidad del Pacífico tuvo la iniciativa, que podríamos considerar pionera, de crear un centro de estudios focalizado inicialmente en China. Transcurridos los años, nuestro centro llamado CECHAP, por sus acrónimos, se ha consolidado como un importante referente de reflexión e intercambio académicos, de investigación conjunta, de diseminación de resultados y de formación especializada tanto en los temas de China como en aquellos otros vinculados a una visión regional más amplia, relativa al Asia-Pacífico. Con China, nuestro centro de estudios ha desarrollado una amplia red de contactos incluyendo destacadas universidades y think tanks de prestigio de dicho país, con los cuales se realizan actividades de todo tipo, académica. La organización de este simposio internacional con SAPES es el resultado de esta estrategia de acercamiento al mundo académico de China, y es también la expresión de una fructífera colaboración académica que esperamos pueda ampliarse aún más en el futuro. En los últimos años, el Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico lleva a cabo un proceso de crecimiento y fortalecimiento institucional que se refleja en un mayor número de investigadores afiliados, incluyendo profesores de la universidad de distintas disciplinas e investigadores postdoctorales, además de publicaciones recientes que se vienen logrando como resultado de proyectos de investigación conjunta, principalmente con pares de China. Las principales líneas de investigación en curso establecidas en el CECHAP son las siguientes: China y el desarrollo sostenible, infraestructura y conectividad con énfasis en la iniciativa de la Franja y la Ruta, economía china y desarrollo comparado entre China y el Perú, así como la región latinoamericana, innovación y tecnología, relaciones de China con el Perú y América Latina, tendencias del Asia-Pacífico en la economía mundial, entre otros tópicos que resultan de interés y relevancia para nuestros países. Finalmente, quiero concluir comentándoles que CECHAP publicará oportunamente el material del presente simposio con las ponencias y comentarios que serán expuestos el día de hoy. Tengo la seguridad de que las intervenciones incluidas se convertirán en una valiosa fuente de consulta que podrá descargarse desde la página web institucional y que nos servirá para los cursos que nuestros estudiantes llevan en la Universidad del Pacífico. Antes de despedirme, sin embargo, quiero hacer una mención de reconocimiento especial al trabajo de todo el equipo del CECHAP. Por supuesto, a su directora, la doctora Rosario Santagadea, a José Carlos Feliciano, su subdirector, por la organización de este evento, que ha contado también con la colaboración de otras unidades de la universidad. Y en fin, para no ser más larga estas palabras de bienvenida, quiero agradecer nuevamente la presencia de cada uno de ustedes y les deseo unas fecundas jornadas de trabajo. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, estimado Felipe, por tus palabras. Seguidamente tendremos el discurso inaugural del evento a cargo del excelentísimo embajador Song Yang, embajador de la República Popular China en el Perú. Dear Ambassador Song Yang, the floor is yours. Please turn on your microphone and thank you.
Muchas gracias. Magnífico rector, presidente de la Universidad del Pacífico, excelentísimo embajador Alain Wagner, and dear honorable speakers. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon in China. I'm glad to participate in this international symposium and exchange ideas with you. I wish a very successful symposium. In the past 2 years, the world has been deeply affected by the COVID-19. The latest WHO statement pointed out that the COVID-19 continues to constitute a public health emergency of international concern, which means that the pandemic is far from over. China is a country with a large population, adhering to the principle of people first and life first, and insisting on dynamic zero COVID policy. It has ensured a very low infection, around 8 million, and fatality rate with less than 30 100,000 people lives and maintained a continuous and stable economic and social operation. On the other hand, in other countries in the world facing the pandemic, they lie down early, and it is the people who suffer in the end. According to the latest data from Johns Hopkins University, the cumulative number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in one country has exceeded 97 million, and more than 1 million people have died. Behind the 1 million people are 1 million broken families. China has always insisted that the pandemic must be prevented, the economy must be stabilized, and development must be safe. China has not stopped its economic development due to the pandemic. In 2020, China's actual GDP growth rate is 2.3%, which is the only country in the world's major economies to achieve positive economic growth. In 2021, China's economy grows by 8.1%. And in the third quarter of this year, 30.9%. The recovery of the national economy has strengthened, and China is still the main engine of the world economy. China's average contribution to world economic growth exceeds 30%, ranking the first in the world. China's total economic outputs accounts for 18.5% of the world economy, ranking second in the world. China has become a major trading partner of more than 140 countries and regions, and its total trade in goods ranks first in the world. In the past 10 years, China's accumulated trade in goods totaled 263.3 trillion yuan, and imports 117.6 trillion yuan, with an average annual growth of 4.7%. China's cumulative use of foreign capital is $1.2 billion, $1.2 trillion, with an average annual growth rate of 5%. The stock of overseas investment has increased from less than $0.6 trillion to more than $2.7 trillion, ranking third in the world. It means China has become an important foreign investor. China has made important contributions to promote global economic growth and building open world economy with its own practical actions. A few days ago, just the president of the university mentioned the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China was successfully held in Beijing. I believe everyone has noticed the key word of Chinese-style modernization. Chinese-style modernization is a modernization with a huge population. So far, no more than 30 countries and regions in the world have achieved modernization with a total population of no more than 1 billion people. There is no precedent in the world for a country of 1.4 billion people to modernize, equivalent to 3 Europe or 4 USA. Prosperity is the goal pursued by all countries in the modernization, while Chinese-style modernization pursues the common prosperity of all the people. And it is a modernization in which material civilization and spiritual civilization are coordinated. We emphasize that lucid waters and large mountains are invaluable assets and never sacrifice the environment for development. Chinese-style modernization is a modernization that follows the path of peaceful development. Over the past 70 years, since the founding of the People's Republic of China, it has never provoked any war or conflict. China emphasizes mutual benefit and win-win results with other countries in the world. Peru is the third country in Latin America to establish diplomatic relations with the new China, the second to settle a comprehensive strategic partnership with China, the first to sign a package of free trade agreements with China. Peru is a strong supporter to Belt and Road Initiative and Global Development Initiative. We can say that China-Peru relations have always taken the lead of China-Latin American relations. China has been Peru's top trading partners. Its main export market and its most important source of investment for 8 consecutive years. While Peru has become China's second largest investment destination in Latin America, the trade volume between the two countries exceeded $37.3 billion last year. According to Peruvian data, Peru had a trade surplus with China of nearly $8.3 billion in 2021, namely 8.8% of Peru's total trade volume. Approximately 200 Chinese companies have invested in Peru. China's investment in Peru exceeded $30 million. So that's some economic figures. The bilateral relation is not all. We have a friendly relationship, people-to-people contacts, and two old civilizations together to build a peaceful world. So that's the crucial point. That's the fundamental issue of our bilateral relations. So I think Peru is our friend. It's a friend, a partner, and brother of China. The fast progress of China-Peru relations is a great sample of China's relations with the world. Nowadays, global economy is facing multiple challenges, and unilateralism and protectionism are taking over the world. In this context, China is determined to support economic globalization and promote advanced opening up. China will provide more trade, investment, and growth opportunities for foreign companies, constantly give new hopes for the world with its own new developments, promote the construction of an open global economy, and better benefit the people of all nations. The world, times, and history are having unprecedented changes these days, and society is encountering challenges never seen before. Once again, this world stands at a crucial point of history. Hope that we can enter in the post-pandemic world, and the path to follow depends only on the choices of people of all countries. My question is that cooperation or confrontation, being inclusive or exclusive, to build or to destroy, being open or closed, mutual benefit or zero-sum game. The answers to all these questions concern the interests of all nations and future of mankind. China has already answered these questions with practical actions, and we welcome you to share your opinions about this issue. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, dear Ambassador Song Yang, for your opening speech and great insights for this international symposium. Continuando con la agenda, daremos paso a la ponencia magistral titulada La economía china en la post-pandemia, tendencias, desafíos e impactos en la economía mundial, a cargo del Dr. Xu Ping. El Dr. Xu Ping es profesor de Economía y Finanzas y profesor de la Cátedra Wu Jinliang de Economía de CIPS. Es bachiller y máster de la Universidad de Fudan y PhD en Economía de la Universidad de Columbia. Antes de unirse a CIPS, el Dr. Xu fue Tenure Professor en Wharton College of Business de University of Florida, profesor visitante en Darden School of Business en University of Virginia, y ha trabajado como consultor para el Fondo Monetario Internacional y el Banco Mundial. Ha publicado numerosos artículos en revistas internacionales y chinas, y ha sido el fundador y editor en jefe de la serie de libros CIPS Frontier. El Dr. Xu Ping enseña los cursos de macroeconomía, economía china y global, y finanzas internacionales. Ha sido invitado a dar charlas a ejecutivos de empresas multinacionales y empresas chinas sobre temas ligados a la economía global y la economía china. Finalmente, el Dr. Xu ha recibido 4 veces el premio a la excelencia de CIPS y la prestigiosa medalla de CIPS a la excelencia en la enseñanza en el 2019. Dear Professor Xu Ping, the floor is yours. Turn your microphone.
President Portocarrero, Ambassador Song, dear distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to be invited to attend this very important forum to celebrate the relationship between China and Peru and with Latin America in general. So I'm from China-Europe Intermediate School in Shanghai. It's a business school ranked by Financial Times to be #1 in all programs in Asia. So I have to be clear here that the views that I express here represents my own view It does not represent the view of my institute. Right? Okay, we are talking about China. So I'm going to talk about three things. First, what is the current status of the Chinese economy? Second, what are the challenges China has been facing, especially since 2008? Third, what is exactly the new era that is associated with our great leader, President Xi Jinping, who just got his third term 2 days ago from the Party Congress. So I think our forum is really having the great timing 2 days after the conclusion of the most important conference that will impact both China and the rest of the world for the years to come. So I'm going to interpret some of the key messages from the Congress, especially the implications for the global economy. So what is China now? Okay, if you had still had some impression about China from certain movies, historic books, then it's outdated. Okay? China is now the second largest economy in the world, and it's now 77% of the US economy, and we expect China to become the largest economy around 2030. And you can see that I put Latin America and Caribbean together. That would account for about 31% of China's economy. And in this graph, I'm having these largest economies in the world, and Brazil, the largest economy in Latin America, is about 9% of Chinese economic size. So that speaks volume about the magnitude of the Chinese economy to the globe. What made China to reach this position? China was very poor. Okay? I was born in 1965, and at that time, China's per capita income probably is only $100. However, as we all know, China started a new period of reform and opening from 1978. And you can see the red curve here. This is China, which is really grow exponentially, okay, at an annualized real GDP growth rate, which takes away inflation, over 9%, 9.16% in exact. And the second fastest growing large economy is India, which is 5.55%. Okay, Brazil about 2.4%, and Latin America as a whole about 2.5%. I know Peru grows faster than the average of Latin America, but still, you know, you look at these 43 years, which we have to call it a miracle. Not only China's size has got bigger, but also China's average living standard has increased to the point that probably is beyond your belief. For 1.4 billion Chinese people, the per person gross national income, which is very close to gross national domestic product, has reached $11,890 US. Okay, and that honestly is not in our wildest imagination, even 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. I put Latin America and the Caribbean together. The average in 2021 is $8,024 US, and Peru 6,520. Brazil 7,720. So we are all in the group of so-called upper middle income economies. But China has been moving up fast. Okay, it used to be that China was much poorer than any Latin American countries, but now it's richer. Of course, we have to be careful. This is not for every Chinese person. Okay, this is the average. Okay, there are poor people, there are rich people. This is the average. And the economist predicts that China will soon become a high-income country. So the latest year would be 2025. So I did a calculation. That would mean that if China grow on average in the next 5 years, 4%, then that would be 2025, reaching the threshold set by the World Bank for high-income country. So of course, high-income countries, there are a lot of high-income countries as we see, right? And the US is having 70,000, okay? So being a high-income country is a very proud thing, but it's not there yet, right? There are many, many other countries which are richer in a per person basis than China. And China's status in the world economy has been really reaching one milestone after another. In 2009, China became the largest exporting country in the world. In 2010, China exceeded Japan to become the second largest economy in the world. In 2014, China became the world's largest recipient of FDI. So this is 1 or 2 times. And in the 10 years average, China has been the second largest recipient of FDI. The largest, of course, is US. And in 2015, China became the world's second largest FDI sending country. So this status is more or less around second, third, fourth. So the average is the third. And in 2016, renminbi, Chinese currency, became the 5th elite currency of the IMF special drawing rights, which is a currency unit used internally in IMF, and that is linked to 5 currencies now, including renminbi. Okay. So what's the secret? Okay. As I always tell my students, young or old, that success has 3 elements. First, your IQ. But having IQ does not get you very far if you do not have EQ. So EQ is equally, if not more important. But there are many people in the world with high IQ and high EQ, but they did not get their potential realized because they lack the luck, either because of themselves or because of the environment. So what's the secret of China's economic success? There's no secret. The secret is after 1978, China started the reform and opening era with very high IQ in terms of abundant labor, especially young labor, but young, maybe not highly educated, but very, very healthy and disciplined. And China is known to have high savings rate. So China is having abundant capital. And the Chinese people actually are very entrepreneurial. So adding this is China's IQ, okay? China has this IQ many, many years before China's reform. But what made China utilize this IQ? That's the EQ. That's China's reform, which allow people to benefit from their own working. So they work hard. from opening up, which allow Chinese people to see the rest of the world so that they learn. And the third one is that China was very poor. Being poor is bad, but being poor can be good. That's called advantage of backwardness. So you can actually have a lower starting point. But there are a lot of space ahead of you that you can learn, which we call technological catch-up in economics. So you would say that China is having high IQ, China is having high EQ, then everything works. No. Remember, if China utilizes all its IQ, what's the result? The result are lots of products. But who are going to consume these products? In the first 20, 30 years of China's reform and opening era, Chinese people do not have the ability to consume what they produce. So it needs some external consumers. Luckily, China, when it was having the reform and opening, the world was in a globalization era. They welcomed the low price, moderately good quality Chinese goods. So China became the factory for the world. Right? So these three together are what made China to be China today in terms of its economic size and in terms of the living standard that an average Chinese person enjoys. However, luck will not always come with you. And also, as the economy grows, things change. Okay? So starting from 2008, it's around 2008, everything goes against China. So that result is reflected in this graph. Okay, in Chinese analysis, we have to use the growth rate, not just the level. And the growth rate, if you have a growth rate of 6% for any country in the world, you feel very happy. But in China, that's considered to be very bad performance. Okay. So when China was growing, especially after 2001, the entry of China into the World Trade Organization, you can see China's growth, which I would call WTO dividend, carried China, about 7-8 years until the global financial crisis. Okay, so we do not really blame the global financial crisis. It's just a coincidence. Whether there is a global financial crisis or not, the Chinese economy will enter the so-called new normal period, which is characterized by slowdown of the Chinese economic growth rate year after year. Okay. So people may have a good interpretation about this new normal, saying that as China grows more rich, it should really grow slower, but with better quality. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The reasons behind this new normal trend. First, China's IQ in terms of young labor force got to the turning point around 2009. And China is getting older and older in population. And we lost the demographic dividend we enjoyed for the first 30 years of economic growth. In terms of China's bigger engine of investment, despite the fact that China's saving and investment rate is still the highest in the world among large economies, you cannot imagine 40% saving, national saving, and 45% investment rate. However, it is losing steam. It is going down in terms of percentage, and more importantly, you do not see in this graph, its marginal return is getting lower and lower. The most alarming development around 2007-8 is China is seeing negative productivity growth, okay? Not 0% productivity growth, which was the case before 1978, during the first 30 years of the People's Republic of China. The study shows that the TFP, total factor productivity, grew at 0%. So China grew during that 30 years because of more labor input, more capital input, but no efficiency in overall. None mean that there's no area that China, grow efficiently, like satellites and so on. But overall, no. However, we are getting to a new territory. That is, China's efficiency is not going up, but going down. Okay, that has a lot of reasons. For example, China no longer is a poor country in terms of very low technology. And in that case, you could imitate and learn. But now you have to innovate. That's more difficult. And China has done a lot of reforms. But now it goes to the deeper water. And it's difficult to push forward deep reforms. So the reform dividend, the openness dividend, the catch-up dividend all go down. Luck, not anymore, at least not in terms of buying Chinese goods. This is a very simple indicator, which we call trade dependency ratio. Basically, it's export plus import divided by GDP. Okay, so I have data for Pillow. I took a look at Pillow, and the Pillow was at a quite low point, the trade GDP ratio in 1989, 23%. Afterwards, your country is getting more and more open. So in 1989, it's 23%. In 2008, you got 58%. Last year, it was 56%. So Pillow would be considered a very open economy in international trade. China was not a very open economy in trade in 1978. However, you can see the trajectory. The first round pushed by Deng Xiaoping in terms of opening China, starting from the special economic zones, then the coastal regions, then the whole country, is making China benefit from this, what I would call opening up dividend. And that would actually stop. But China got a second wave because of the visionary leadership of Jiang Zemin and the capable management of Premier Zhu Rongji, and China entered the WTO, and which allowed China to have upgraded openness. However, around 2007, the whole world turned around, right? And the sentiments is that there are a lot of bad things from globalization. We should abandon globalization. And this becomes politically incorrect. And then in terms of what it is affecting China, you can see China's trade dependence ratio dropped very quickly from 64.4% to now only 31.9%. Remember, I mentioned the number for Pillow. Pillow is now 56%, okay? And so, of course, China is a large country, and China is having big ambition to develop its internal market. So going down may not be a bad thing, but you cannot sell these many things to the rest of the world anymore. Of course, it has something to do with China is now not a cheap place, okay? And you have to pay workers much higher than workers in Vietnam, okay? But I have to say that this reversal has nothing to do with Donald Trump, has nothing to do with the pandemic. With or without Donald Trump, this would happen. Indeed, Donald Trump's presidency was a result of this turning around, not the reason. Then we had a great leader in Xi Jinping. So Xi Jinping, as some of you know, had been working, many places during his young age, and was working in local governments for many years. And in November 2012, Xi Jinping became the General Secretary of Communist Party of China. That's the #1 position in China's political, arrangement. And in the next year, March 2013, Xi Jinping became the president of People's Republic of China. Okay, so China is led by the Chinese Communist Party, CPC. So I will use CPC later. So you need to be first the party head, and of course, in the meantime, you would be the country nation head. Okay, and that's Xi Jinping's first term, and he worked 5 years, and especially had really very much brave action against corruption, which had been a very, very bad thing, hated by the Chinese people. And then Xi Jinping started his second term. So China does not have an election as in Western countries, but the Chinese leaders will work 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. Okay, so in his second term, starting from 2017, the Chinese economy actually was seeing certain sign of getting out of this trend of new normal. So you can see our President Xi Jinping was smiling in his speech after he introduced the leadership of 7 people, including himself, in that year. That was the picture, in that occasion. The same occasion occurred 2 days ago. Okay, October 23rd. China, you see it live in TV, that Xi Jinping led another 6 people, that 7 people make the leadership of China, led by Xi Jinping. And indeed, that's Xi Jinping's third term as CPC General Secretary. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody who are listening today's speech, who attended this forum, understand that Xi Jinping has emerged, or more precisely, has established himself as a paramount leader of China. Okay, Chairman Mao was the founder of People's Republic of China. Deng Xiaoping was the engineer of the reform opening era, which showed spectacular economic growth, as you see. And Xi Jinping is starting a new era. Indeed, if we count the new era, it would start in 2012, the first day of his first term as General Secretary of CPC. Okay, so we need to understand what's the vision of President Xi Jinping or General Secretary Xi Jinping. Okay, he sees long term. Okay, he is trying to make a great contribution to the Chinese Communist Party and to the People's Republic of China in so-called two centenaries.
Quisiera en primer lugar agradecer a la Universidad del Pacífico y a su Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico por la iniciativa de organizar este simposio. Quisiera también saludar al nuevo embajador de China, el señor Sun Yang, y desearle una fructífera estada en nuestro país, tanto en lo personal como en el impulso de las relaciones entre nuestros dos países. Y en tercer lugar, felicitar al profesor Zubin por su magnífica exposición, que lamentablemente se ha interrumpido ya prácticamente al final de ella. Y esperamos poder retomarla. Bien, de acuerdo con un poco la distribución de tareas que nos hemos impuesto los comentaristas, yo voy a tratar un tema de política internacional y lo he titulado China en la nueva geopolítica mundial. Antes que nada quisiera pedirle disculpas porque estoy un poco fónico. Ayer por la mañana sencillamente no podía hablar y la llamé preocupada a Rosario Santander y le dije, mira lo que está pasando, no voy a poder participar, pero esa mañana he amanecido un poco mejor y por eso tengo el gusto de estar con ustedes. Bien, entonces, en relación con la nueva geopolítica mundial y la participación de China en ella, ¿no? Cabe decir que estos cambios en la geopolítica mundial se han venido dando en los últimos 20 años, más o menos, ¿no? Paulatinamente. Y recientemente que han tomado una aceleración en general. Estamos en una época de cambios, ¿no? De cambios fundamentales, tanto en las relaciones internacionales, en la ciencia, en la tecnología, en la organización de las sociedades, en la relación del Estado. En fin, al punto que hoy día ya se dice que no estamos en una época de cambios, sino en un cambio de época. Y en este contexto, sin duda, uno de los actores principales en este cambio de la geopolítica mundial es la República Popular China. Quisiera comenzar refiriéndome a la política del presidente Xi Jinping en el 20º Congreso del Partido Comunista, recientemente realizado. Este Congreso concluyó el último domingo renovando el mandato del presidente Xi Jinping por 5 años más. Y esto es algo muy importante, recomponiendo las estructuras del poder con personas afines al presidente, con lo cual su poder se ha visto fortalecido y su política de gobierno también. Es decir, la nueva era que proclamó el presidente Xi Jinping hace 15 años, ¿no? Ahora va a tener, hace 10 años, perdón, ahora va a tener un nuevo y gran impulso. En su discurso inaugural, el presidente Xi destacó los 3 grandes hitos del decenio que ha cumplido en el poder. En primer lugar, la entrada del socialismo con peculiaridades chinas de la nueva era, que es el pensamiento que lleva su sello personal. En segundo lugar, el centenario de la fundación del Partido Comunista de China, celebrado en el año 2021. Y en tercer lugar, la culminación del objetivo de alcanzar una sociedad, dice él, modestamente acomodada. Como objetivos para su nuevo periodo, ha anunciado que en el año 2035 el país habrá dado, cito, un salto sustancial en el poderío económico, científico, tecnológico. Y para el año 2050, China se habrá transformado, y vuelvo a citar, en un poderoso país socialista, moderno, próspero, democrático, civilizado, armonioso y bello, situado, dice el presidente Xi, a la cabeza en la influencia internacional. Es decir, como acordó el Congreso del Partido Comunista Chino hace 5 años, de que China sería una potencia mundial para el año 2049, esta vez el presidente Xi lo reafirma, y en ese sentido el objetivo es, como repito, que para el año 2050 China se ha propuesto ser una gran potencia, tal vez la gran potencia. También el presidente Xi proclamó con mucho énfasis en su discurso: Taiwán es de China, y aseguró que perseguirá con el máximo esfuerzo la reunificación pacífica con la isla, pero Pekín nunca se avendrá, dijo el presidente, a renunciar al uso de la fuerza armada. Esto, que es muy delicado, lo dejo ahí y lo retomaré después. En segundo lugar, quisiera referirme a China en la nueva estrategia de seguridad de los Estados Unidos. El presidente Biden señaló en la nueva Estrategia Nacional de Seguridad aprobada el 12 de octubre último que el principal desafío de los Estados Unidos en los próximos años será superar a China y contener a Rusia. Y continúa diciendo: Rusia y China presentan desafíos diferentes. Rusia presenta una amenaza inmediata a un sistema internacional libre y abierto, desconociendo flagrantemente las reglas básicas del orden internacional, tal como su brutal guerra de agresión contra Ucrania lo ha mostrado. Y en relación con China, agrega que China es el único país que intenta reformar el orden internacional e incrementar su poder económico, diplomático, militar y tecnológico para alcanzar ese objetivo. La tal reforma del orden internacional que se ha planteado China a través del presidente Xi es sin duda de la mayor importancia y preocupación para los Estados Unidos, porque ¿qué significará ese nuevo orden internacional? Y por consiguiente, gran parte del planeamiento militar descrito en la Estrategia de Seguridad Nacional de los Estados Unidos tiene por objeto enfrentar a China en el espacio, en el ciberespacio y en el mar. En ese sentido, busca promover con sus países aliados y con el sector privado el control de tecnologías claves para China. Vemos, pues, cómo está planteada la competencia, por así decir, entre China y Estados Unidos, ¿no?, en función del poderío mundial. Ahora bien, como mencioné, el presidente Xi ha puesto un gran énfasis en la reunificación de China con Taiwán. La política de una sola China que acordaron Estados Unidos y China cuando establecieron relaciones en la época del presidente Nixon y bajo los impulsos del secretario de Estado Kissinger, ya ha dejado de existir. Hoy día Estados Unidos no repite ese compromiso de una nueva China, que sin embargo países como el Perú nosotros mantenemos. La tensión entre estas dos superpotencias en múltiples frentes, porque son múltiples frentes los que están en tensión, yo diría tal vez, aparte del que estamos tratando, el científico tecnológico es el más importante. Sin embargo, este que estamos mencionando del futuro de Taiwán es el punto más crítico de la confrontación entre las dos superpotencias. Como señalamos, el presidente Xi anunció que podría adoptar todas las medidas necesarias para esa reunificación, lo que incluye el eventual uso de la fuerza contra la intromisión de fuerzas externas, en una referencia velada a los Estados Unidos. Por su parte, el secretario de Estado de los Estados Unidos, Anthony Blinken, ha declarado que China está planeando la reunificación con Taiwán en un plazo más corto del que se había pensado inicialmente, y que China podría intentar el uso de la fuerza para ese propósito. Y añadió, y esto es importante, que los Estados Unidos cumplirían su compromiso de ayudar a Taiwán a defenderse. Yo quiero subrayar estas palabras de ayudar a Taiwán a defenderse, porque antes de esto hubieron unas declaraciones del presidente Biden en que parecía inferir que en caso de una acción por la fuerza de China frente a Taiwán para la reunificación, Estados Unidos intervendría militarmente en el conflicto. Eso, como digo, fueron unas expresiones que daban a entender ese derrotero muy delicado. En este caso, el secretario de Estado Blinken aclara que cumplirían su compromiso de ayudar a Taiwán a defenderse, es decir, proporcionarle armas, medios, etc. Este tema, el tema de la reunificación de Taiwán con China, es sin duda el más delicado y peligroso de las relaciones entre Estados Unidos y China, y por consiguiente para la paz mundial. Otros temas que tienen que ver con este impulso de China, ¿no?, para alcanzar, ¿no?, el liderazgo mundial, se refieren, por ejemplo, a la alianza que la República Popular China ha hecho con Rusia. Esta es una alianza que ambos líderes, el presidente Xi y el presidente Putin, anunciaron que era una alianza sin limitaciones. Por cierto, fue anterior a la invasión de Rusia a Ucrania. Y hasta el momento, China ha mostrado cautela en relación con esa situación. Y es porque China tiene más que perder ante un escalamiento del conflicto. Y a Rusia ha anunciado a través de voceros la posibilidad de utilizar armas nucleares tácticas, es decir, pequeñas bombas atómicas, pero pequeñas del tamaño de las que se echaron en Hiroshima y Nagasaki. Y últimamente se está hablando de la utilización de bombas radiactivas sucias, es decir, bombas que al explotar desparraman elementos radiactivos en un amplio radio y contaminan el ambiente. En esta escala, si se produjera esa escalada que obligaría a Estados Unidos y a la OTAN a tomar otras medidas, sin duda China tendría más que perder, ¿no? Si es que decide ponerse del lado de Rusia. Otro tema delicado son las ambiciones chinas en el Mar del Sur. El control de esta importante vía marítima genera tensiones de China con sus vecinos y también con los Estados Unidos. El Mar del Sur de China no solamente es una gran vía marítima, sino que además es la vía que utiliza la séptima flota de los Estados Unidos para desplazarse por esa zona. Por último, quisiera mencionar la política china para expandir sus relaciones económicas y de cooperación. China viene siendo muy activa en esta materia y hemos escuchado tanto del embajador como luego del profesor importantes pronunciamientos sobre esta materia. La importancia que China tiene para el Perú, es el primer socio comercial, primer inversionista en el área minera, y además esta es una cooperación del más alto nivel, ¿no? De un nivel estratégico, como se ha mencionado también. Y así lo consideran China y el Perú, y están trabajando juntos para ampliar esta cooperación. Como se ha señalado, el Perú se ha incorporado a la iniciativa china llamada la Frágil Ruta, que es la antigua ruta de la seda, pero en un concepto muy moderno, ¿no? Pero además también tiene China otras iniciativas bilaterales muy importantes, tanto públicas como privadas. Y además de la minería que ya he mencionado, cabría también señalar el megapuerto de Chancay, que está en construcción y que será el puerto más importante del Pacífico Sur Sudamericano, ¿no? Hacia el Asia. De manera pues que en esta competencia, en esta pugna de China por alcanzar el papel de gran potencia y competir en ese terreno con los Estados Unidos, hay muchos desafíos y muchas oportunidades. Desafíos que países como el Perú deberán sortear, teniendo en cuenta que tanto Estados Unidos como China son países cercanos y socios muy importantes del Perú. Pero también hay, como dije, grandes oportunidades para que el Perú pueda beneficiarse no solo como exportador de materias primas, país, el Perú tiene como sabemos, una minería extraordinaria que cada vez será más importante para el mundo, ¿no? Pero también adquiriendo tecnología china, ¿no? Recibiendo inversiones chinas en este campo, ¿no? Y en el campo de la infraestructura, como es el mencionado megapuerto de Chancay. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, estimado embajador Alan Wagner, por brindarnos la perspectiva geopolítica del tema. Muy interesante los comentarios. Siguiendo con la agenda, me parece que ya tenemos al profesor Xubing. Professor Xubing, can you hear us? Professor Xubing. Bueno, creo que todavía estamos teniendo ciertas dificultades de conexión, pero lo vamos a solucionar pronto. En todo caso,
I can hear you. I can hear
Okay.
you. I can hear you.
Great.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yes. So
Yeah, now I'm on, but I cannot share the PPT.
okay, let me share it for you. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, I will be sharing.
So I do not want to interpret, interrupt this panel. Is the panel still on?
We finished with the first commentator, so now it's okay if you can continue with the last part of your presentation, and then we will get back to the other commentators.
Okay, just one more slide. One more slide.
Yes.
Yeah. One more. I'm trying to find these keywords. Keywords. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Keyword. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me get my phone working and. Okay. So let me finish up in a fast mode. I really would like other panelists to speak. So I'm trying to summarize my view about the future of China, both domestically and globally. Okay, so first, domestically, look at these three common words. Three key words, right? Common prosperity for all, which is more about economic income distribution rather than growth. Chinese style modernization is not defined yet, but clearly it's not the efficiency driven Western type of modernization. And high quality development, of course, that is consistent with China's growth stage. So that part is understood. And the shared future for mankind, that's mainly a big hat for this relationship with the rest of the world. Next slide. Okay, so how can China, focus on non-economic goals? And with where is the economy? And that probably is the question asked by all of the world, right? Including Chinese people. We support going to a new era, focusing more on common prosperity. But how about economic growth? Okay? So I think the Chinese economy needed to really have two transitions. One is to move from high quantity, which is mainly investment, to high quality, which is mainly technological innovation. And in the meantime, China needed to really move more from the global market exports to the domestic consumption. Okay, so for this dual transition, and the leadership has come up with dual circulation strategy. Next slide. Yeah, so dual circulation strategy is about, next slide, please, the illustration. Next slide, yeah. So the dual circulation, as you can see, I draw a graph which shows you that, starting from the right, national saving become a domestic investment, and labor, now skilled labor in China, combined with investment, produce a lot of goods and services. Okay, previously it would mostly relying on the world market to consume. Now it would really focus more on this domestic consumption in highlighted in green, right? So that is the internal circulation. So it's not that China is not going to continue with the external circulation, but it's just moving more towards internal circulation. Next slide. So my view, okay, I emphasize here in the title explicitly. That's my view, okay? That's not any institution, and I'm representing only myself. I'm sharing with the audience my views. First, in the short run of 1 or 2 years, the performance of Chinese people, Chinese economy will hinge critically on the recovery from pandemic-related situation, including the zero COVID policy, dynamic zero COVID policy mentioned by the Chinese ambassador when he was speaking, right? And so that part, we have heard from the ambassador about the various reasons for China to adopt this policy, but there will be one day which this policy will fade out of the scene, and so that is critical for China's economic growth in the short run. Okay, in the medium run of 5 to 10 years, I would say, if China did not make significant progress in the dual transition, okay, more innovation, more domestic consumption, then China would have a trouble, right? I mean, but to the degree that China can push forward this dual transition, I think China would be fine in this medium run. In the long run, okay, I really come down to one word. That's vitality, which is the word that I've been proposing in the past 1 year. That is, in China, there is now a term called lying flat among Chinese youngsters who feel like there's nothing to work for, so they lie flat. If all Chinese people lie flat, especially the young people, then there's no long-term prospect for the Chinese economy. Of course, the Chinese people will not lie flat. Okay, that's basically they are trying to say that they want more opportunities. I think the Chinese society should provide more opportunities for young people, for people who have different ideas, to really work on the new ideas. So I put it vitality of people and the society. That does not only apply to China. It applies to all countries. If you see the long-term economic success of any country, it would be a success of a society and the people with vitality. Next slide. So finally, I want to mention briefly China's relations with the world. Okay, so China is now really more explicit in the world stage because China is no longer a small potato. Right? China has a role to play, and so I'm sure that everybody knows this BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, and that is one of the initiatives that Xi Jinping has been pushing from his first term. Okay, next slide. So the relationship with South America, Latin America has been really developing very, very fast. So China is South America's top trading partner, and the second largest trading partner with Latin America as a whole after the United States. Okay, and also China's trade with Latin America is really growing to rapidly, and also is moving towards bigger numbers as estimated. Next slide. And also with Pelosi, I remember that the president of your school mentioned this FTA, that's the free trade agreement signed between China and Pelosi quite a long time ago when Xi Jinping was the vice president of China. That was back in 2009. So that demonstrates that China, really is having a good relationship, especially with Peru, in this region. So I think, if you know Chinese tradition, that is Chinese people view older friends very, very, closely. So I think China would really view Peru as an older friend, and so the relationship is really having a foundation that is fitting the Chinese culture. Next slide. So my view about the global economy, for the future, if I may, I put it in this one globe, two system, hypothesis. Okay, I do not mean ideological system. It's not like U.S. led West against the Soviet Union led East. It's more about economic competition. As different countries would have different friend circles, and China is trying to build a friend circle, and the U.S. may not like that friend circle, so U.S. is also strengthening its own friend circle. And for countries in between, they can be in the friend circle of China, and they can be in the friend circle of the United States. So you can see that these regional platforms like RCEP, which is more centered around China, and this CPTPP, which is now around Japan, but there is a lot of speculation about whether U.S. will return in certain way to CPTPP, making it the TPP that was really withdrawn by Donald Trump, probably very much strategically stupid action from the U.S. side. But the U.S. is also having relations with the EU, that's called the TTIP, and North American, South American. So I don't think globalization is ending. I just believe that we are not going to return to this closed economy world. We are going to not return to the full globalization world for many years in the future. But we are going to have this kind of what you can call it zones or bigger zones, and you are in my zone, I am in your zone, and this kind of relationship. This is not the most efficient system, but now efficiency is secondary, right? And security and national security is more important. And even for Americans and Western countries, they are considering the so-called geopolitical risk, from China, Russia, and other places, right? So I see the world moving to this direction. Next slide. So I will finish by summarizing 3 points. Okay, first, I would like the audience to understand the magnitude and the standard of living of China now. Okay, not something that is in the stereotype, and that's very important. Okay, I think both China and the rest of the world should learn, to understand better the other side, right? I mean, and that is the starting point of building a relationship. If you do not really understand the other side, and you cannot build a relationship. That's number one. Number two, China is not really, always having this smooth economic growth as fantasized by many foreign media. I mean, foreign media, especially Western media, go to extremes. Sometimes they go to extreme that China can do everything. Sometimes they go to the other extreme that China can do nothing. It's falling. That's not the truth. Okay, I think China is facing a lot of challenges. So it's up to the Chinese government and the Chinese people to figure out, how to, make progress in the transition, towards self-innovation and domestic consumption. It's not a closing door. It's still going to be working closely with the rest of the world. But China is now reached the point that it has to do a lot of things internally.
Okay, I think that is the second point. The final point, I would like everybody to understand that President Xi Jinping is the well-established top leader in China, and he is going to be the anchor of everything in China. Okay, and so that is something that we need to accept. You know, we are not talking about in terms of a normative analysis. What should be, what should not be. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, we are talking about in economics terms called a positive analysis. That is what will be and what will not be. Okay, so I think we should understand not just Chinese people, the rest of the world. And so for this occasion, I would really urge all the audience, if you have any interest in China and the China relationship with Peru, and even you care about the future of the world, you should understand the thoughts of China's top leader and the new era that he is pushing forward. Okay, and I think it would not be economic efficiency, economic growth as a top priority anymore. It is not going to be making money as a top priority anymore. And you know, China has passed that stage. It would be more about equal distribution, more about environment, more about a beautiful, you know, society, you know, and that's the goal with regard to the rest of the world. I think China is trying to persuade the rest of the world that there is a shared future to build. Of course, that's a very difficult sailing, especially to the West. However, I think China, you know, as you can see from my talk, has got to this position from a very low position in a very quick way. Okay, although China was great in the ancient time, but that's a long time ago. Okay, so for the young China, new China, it is still a learning process. Okay, in the learning process, there will be a lot of conflicts. There would be a lot of misunderstanding. So this is why I highly praise today's forum, and I highly appreciated my opportunity to speak on the forum. That is to make a mutual understanding improve. Okay, it's not that we need to agree with each other on all points, and it would be ridiculous if we agree with each other on all points, right? But we need to understand the point from the other side, and we need to be modest from each side and try to understand the other side better and try to find a way for a better world in the win-win situation. Okay, win-win way. Okay, so that concludes my talk. Thank you very much for tolerating the technical you know difficulty, and we are living in this world, and actually I think it's already very great that we can communicate from far away in this Zoom technology, and we you know learn from each other through this, despite a certain interruptions and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Xuping, for your insightful session and content. It did bring back memories of my time as your student at SIPS. So I would like to now continue with the comentarios, and after that we will come back to you for your final remarks and comments. A continuación, entonces quisiera invitar a la señora Tao Fenhua a brindar sus comentarios. La señora Tao Fenhua es gerente general de ICBC Peru Bank y presidenta de la Asociación de Empresas Chinas en el Perú. Tiene un bachiller de Economía en la Universidad de Fudan y un MBA otorgado por la Universidad de Hong Kong. Asistió desde el 2012 al 2013 al Stern Business School de la Universidad de Nueva York y ha ocupado diversas posiciones en ICBC. Desde el año 2018 forma parte de ICBC Peru Bank como la gerente general y la directora ejecutiva. Dear Ms. Tao Fenhua, please turn on your microphone. You have 10 minutes for your comments, please.
Okay, thank you, Jose Carlos. Dear friends from Peru and China, good morning and good evening. First of all, I would like to thank Pacific University, Asia and China Center for the invitation to participate for this important event to present the comments from the business perspectives. From the speeches just provided by the speakers, China and Peru are increasingly interacting with each other economically and in a comprehensive way. What will be in the next step? That's our question, right? So here, please allow me to share briefly my views with all of you. Firstly, I would talk about the dual transition trend in China. As Professor Xu just mentioned, the Chinese economy will gradually shift from exporting-driven to domestic consumption-driven. I would say this upgrade of China's domestic consumption means an opportunity for Peruvian exports. For many years, Peru's exports to China have been concentrated in traditional commodities like minerals and fish meal, right? Up to now, in these two areas still account for almost 50% of the total exports in the country to China. And I found some interesting information from the website of Minsedu that China imports more than 190 billion US dollar worth of agricultural goods annually. And within these imports, only 14% correspond to goods that Peru export. And in this area, Peru only account for 1.7%. And another 13% of Chinese imports are made up of the goods that Peru apply, but up to now has not exported to China yet. And so these data actually indicate the fact that Peru's export trade to China still has a great potential to develop in the future. And up to now, we see there are many platforms because since the pandemic, it's not easy to go directly, but we have several good platforms to promote for that, like China International and China Import and Export Fair every year, China International Fair for Trade in Services, and in recently 2 years, I have the opportunity on behalf of ICBC to go together with ADEX and to promote the Peruvian clients to participate in the China International Import Expo, the CIIE. And I saw by myself on the expo, the Peruvian superfoods are very popular in China. Now, more and more Chinese families have Peruvian food, avocado, blueberries in their kitchen and on their table. So that's the first. Secondly, I would like to mention the global initiative which is also mentioned by Professor Xu. And in the new era, it is pushed forward by China, right? And Peru signed the MOU to join BRI on April 2019. And since then, and not only since then, and actually during this year, from the point of view of Association of Chinese Enterprises in Peru, I saw more Chinese companies coming to Peru for investment and for business. And they are involved in more sectors, not only in mining, energy, infrastructure construction, but also finance, telecommunication, port, and Ambassador Allen just mentioned Shanghai, and also manufacturing and etc. And unlike before, because previously the main investment concentrated on the traditional import and export of primary products, but now more and more companies are considering to establish deep processing industries here in Beirut. And also they are taking multiple forms and models, not only EPC for contracting, but also M&A, PPP investment are more and more often nowadays. And also the Chinese companies coming here, they are now shift from quantitative development to qualitative development. Why I'm saying so, I could share with you some examples. In the energy industry, now the Chinese companies are focusing more on the emerging energy sectors, like the hydroelectric, wind power, and the solar power energies. And another example is the Three Gorges group coming from China. They have already published the Social Responsibility Investment Report in Beirut for consecutive 2 years. So you can see more and more Chinese companies pay more attention to ESG, to green field, to eco-friendly investment. So that's the situation. And thirdly, here I want to mention financial services, because you know I'm from the area, I'm from this sector. In my point of view, financial support is crucial to support the business cooperation between the two countries, between the companies, Belarusian and the Chinese. So here, yes, I think to provide specific products, financial products to support this cooperation is very important. I mean, specific products, financial products means not the overall speaking products, but tailor-made for the development for this cooperation between Beirut and China. So for example, the advisory of the investment in China and Beirut, and RMB products like FX, settlement, bond investment in China, something like that. And also the business matchmaking between the countries, between the two groups of the companies around these two countries. So something like that. And also here, another important concept in financial support is to establish an international financing cooperation mechanism. Here, you know, Beirut is a member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, already. Yeah, we are very glad to see that. And Chinese Chinese financial institutions will continue to expand cooperation with various multilateral development financial institutions, and also investment funds and regional financial institutions to promote intra-regional financial cooperation and financial stability and achieve mutual benefits for the development of the cooperation. So that's something related to the financial sector. And above all, we expect to have a higher level economic business cooperation between the two countries, between the companies. But to reach this target, I would say it's not easy. It depends on the stability of the legal and the tax system, the transparency of government policies, and the respect to the market practice. Beirut used to be one of the countries in this region with a solid market-oriented system. But honestly speaking, recently we saw some weakening sign in this area. So I also want to mention some phenomenon happening recently, because Chinese companies and banks were considered as related parties up to now. So it has not a legal base, and it is not in line with the common sense in all over the world. And this year, some media in the country made unfounded speculations and imposed arbitrary denigration to some Chinese construction companies for their participation construction projects in Peru. And also Chinese banks have been also referred in these reports. And beside of that, recently we found some entities from government also intended to share this same idea. So we are very concerned about this phenomenon. And all beautiful roses have thorns, right? So actually, Ambassador Song Yan also just asked several crucial questions to all of us. So in my opinion, from the government, from academic, and also the business sectors, all of us should join together. We have the responsibility to face these challenges and to join together to offer our effort for the shared future, just as Professor Shi mentioned. And we are very much looking forward for this. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Taofenhua, for bringing us the Chinese private sector view in this symposium. Now, following with the agenda, quisiera invitar al profesor Diego Winkelried a brindar sus comentarios. El doctor Diego Winkelried es profesor y jefe del Departamento Académico de Finanzas de la Universidad del Pacífico. Tiene una maestría y doctorado en Economía en University of Cambridge. Sus intereses de investigación son la política monetaria, las macrofinanzas, la economía del desarrollo y los métodos cuantitativos. Su investigación ha aparecido en diversos journals muy reconocidos, y antes de unirse a la Universidad del Pacífico fue jefe del Departamento de Modelos Macroeconómicos del Banco Central de Reserva del Perú. Estimado profesor Winkelried, agradeceré encender su micrófono. Tiene 10 minutos para sus comentarios. Muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much, Jose Carlos. Is the audio fine? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It is a pleasure and a privilege to me to share this space with Professor Jubin and with Ambassador Son, okay, and the other panelists, of course. I will give a brief commentary from the perspective of, an academic in emerging markets, seeing how China has affected us, and of course will affect emerging markets economies, okay? So basically, there are two main channels from which, the developments in China will affect the third world, emerging markets. The first one is trade, of course. It has already been mentioned, and it has already been studied quite a lot. So just to illustrate this literature, I'm going to share with you this graph from one of my papers. Basically, this is the impact that an increase in the growth rate of one of these big economies, United States, Germany, China, produce on smaller economies like Chile, Brazil, and Argentina. This is just an example. And the shaded areas are like, if you want, like recent effects. And whereas the red lines are like more historical, from the 90s, for example. And what is remarkable in this graph, of course, is how China has become so important to emerging markets. In this case, Latin America, but in general markets, in general, in emerging markets in general. Okay, even more important than traditional partners such as Europe or Germany in this case, and as important as the United States. And this is the trade channel that has been thoroughly studied. And for example, if you take a look at the IMF projections of growth, of world growth, less than a month ago, they revised downwards world growth. And you can see this channel operating there. Okay, they revised downwards the growth in China, and through this trade channel, the growth in general in the emerging markets and in Latin America in particular. Okay, there is a second channel which is very important, and it's actually an interest to me personally, okay, which has not been, studied with that emphasis, which is a financial channel. Okay, and here I have more questions than answers. Okay, one fact that can be established is that as in the trade case, China has become a very important investor in emerging markets. Okay, here you have a graph where you can see the turnover of Chinese investment abroad. Okay, somehow the income generated by Chinese investments in various regions in the world. You have this very handsome graph with a growing importance, okay, especially in Asia, but also notably in Africa, and somehow in Latin America. Okay, so you do have this important, but there is really no clear-cut conclusion. There's no consensus on how this channel affects the emerging markets. Okay, for example, we are now experiencing, or China is now experiencing, a lot of volatility in their own financial markets, and an open question is how this volatility will transmit to emerging markets, okay, or such as Latin America, for example. Okay, in the same line, okay, of reasoning, most of the influence of China is through productive investment. Okay, here you have a graph that summarizes the influence of Chinese companies in all the world, in all the emerging markets. Okay, and you can see this very aggressive growth in the last decade. Okay, and as Mrs. Taufik was mentioning, okay, even though there's a historical importance in mining, energy, and manufacturing, okay, the most recent investments are towards modern sectors and technological. From the point of view of the recipient countries, okay, Chinese investments are very, very important indeed. So here you have Chinese investment can be as large as 3% of gross capital formation in some regions in the country. These are regional averages, so you have like individual countries having much higher exposure, to Chinese investments. And a second possible channel, financial channel, has to do with development finance. Okay, because of the COVID pandemic, the development banks in China has not, provided loans in the most recent years, but this can be a very important source of funding, for some governments in emerging markets. For example, in Latin America, Argentina and Venezuela are very, very important. Often, these loans, that this country receives, are more politically motivated than economically motivated. Nevertheless, the channel is open there. So A question I personally have, which is something that at the moment fascinates me and really interests me, is in opinion, for example, of Professor Zhu Bin, how do you think these financial channels, will operate? Do you think that emerging markets are exposed or overexposed to Chinese volatility, and how this may change in the future, in the face of this new vision of the Chinese economy in the near future? Okay, so thank you very much, and as I told you, it is my pleasure to be here with you.
Muchas gracias, estimado profesor Pinkelrey. Finalmente, para concluir con este panel de comentaristas, tendremos los comentarios de la doctora Rosario Santagadea, directora del Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia-Pacífico de la Universidad del Pacífico. La doctora Rosario Santagadea es doctora en Economía Internacional por la Université de París, West Nanterre La Défense, Francia, y ha sido fellow del Weatherhead Center for International Affairs de Harvard University. Se ha desempeñado como asesora de ministros de Relaciones Exteriores, Defensa y Economía, así como de la presidencia del Consejo de Ministros del Perú. Ha sido coordinadora nacional de la Iniciativa para la Integración de la Infraestructura Regional Suramericana, coordinadora del Instituto de Relaciones Europeo-Latinoamericanas en Madrid, funcionaria de la Secretaría General de la Comunidad Andina, consultora del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo y secretaria ejecutiva del Centro de Estudios Internacionales, entre otras posiciones. Sus investigaciones académicas han dado lugar a publicaciones en América Latina, Europa, Estados Unidos y China. Estimada Rosario, agradeceré puedas encender tu micrófono y tienes 10 minutos para comentarios. Adelante, por favor.
Muchas gracias, José Carlos. En primer lugar, mis saludos al embajador Song Yang, al profesor Zhu Bin y a mis distinguidos colegas en el panel de comentarios, embajador Wagner, Tao Fenghua y Diego Winkelrey. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí. Quisiera en estos comentarios enfocarme en identificar cuáles deberían ser los nuevos temas de la agenda futura de las relaciones del Perú con China a la luz de la transformación en curso de la economía china y su rumbo futuro. China se orienta, como hemos visto, a cumplir la meta del segundo centenario, que corresponde a los 100 años de la fundación de la República Popular, y espera convertirse en 2050 en un país plenamente desarrollado. Partiendo de esta visión de largo plazo que ha sido expuesta por el doctor Zhu Bin y que aparece también en el discurso del presidente Xi Jinping en el 20 Congreso del Partido Comunista Chino, yo vería 3 campos para buscar una respuesta a la pregunta de cuáles deberían ser los temas principales de la agenda futura de relaciones del Perú con China. Primero, el desarrollo que China espera alcanzar puede ser un motor para el desarrollo del Perú, más allá de solo reflejarse en un aumento de nuestras exportaciones de materias primas hacia China. Y esta pregunta se justifica porque las exportaciones no tradicionales son apenas 4% de las exportaciones totales del Perú hacia China. El resto son productos primarios. Entonces, necesitamos realizar objetivos de modernización industrial y diversificación exportadora. ¿Cómo lograrlo? Segundo, ¿qué papel puede jugar la iniciativa de la Franja y la Ruta en esta perspectiva? Tercero, hay lecciones aprendidas de la experiencia china que podríamos adaptar creativamente y sin copiar para nuestro propio desarrollo. Intentaré delinear lo que serían mis propias respuestas a estas preguntas y le pediría al profesor Zhu Bin comentar al respecto. Vemos claramente que China seguirá siendo parte de la globalización. La doble circulación, como patrón de desarrollo más balanceado entre la orientación al mercado mundial y el énfasis en el mercado interno, que ha explicado el doctor Xu no significa aislacionismo. De hecho, China es un socio comercial importante de más de 140 países y se ha beneficiado de la globalización. Si se cerrara, perdería eficiencia y disminuiría su capacidad de innovación. Entonces, China seguirá impulsando la economía mundial, incluso ahora con menores tasas de crecimiento, pero que son de todas maneras superiores al crecimiento de los países avanzados y al promedio del crecimiento mundial, aunque actualmente son menores a las de otros países asiáticos. Al mismo tiempo hemos visto que hay un movimiento hacia nuevos motores de crecimiento vinculados a la innovación, lo que implica un ascenso de China en las cadenas globales de valor para especializarse en bienes de alta tecnología. Junto a esto, vemos que hay deslocalización de producciones manufactureras menos complejas y más intensivas en mano de obra hacia otras economías, entre ellas del sudeste asiático, que van tomando el lugar que antes tenía China en esas producciones. Y ahí podría haber una oportunidad para el Perú. La estrategia podría ser impulsar inversiones chinas en el sector de manufacturas en el Perú, principalmente en productos intermedios que puedan ser parte de cadenas globales de valor lideradas por firmas chinas en Asia-Pacífico, y promover de esta forma nuestra propia modernización industrial y diversificación exportadora. En nuestros trabajos de investigación hemos venido impulsando la necesidad de estudiar el proceso de deslocalización e integración en la producción industrial entre China y el sudeste asiático, a fin de extraer lecciones aprendidas para impulsar similar proceso entre China y el Perú. Me gustaría conocer la opinión del profesor Xu al respecto de este planteamiento. Obviamente, las realidades culturales son distintas y entre nosotros hay un océano de por medio, pero ello significaría que un proceso de deslocalización e integración de la producción industrial entre China y el Perú sería inviable. Quisiera dejar esta pregunta planteada. El segundo tema, concerniente al papel que puede jugar la iniciativa de la Franja y la Ruta, está relacionado con lo anterior. El próximo año serán ya 10 años de implementación de esta iniciativa y son más de 140 países del mundo, o casi 150, que han suscrito memorándums con China en esta materia. De estos, 21 son países latinoamericanos. El Perú lo hizo, como se ha mencionado, en abril de 2019. Es decir, hace ya casi 4 años. Pero, ¿cuál es la estrategia de implementación? La Franja y la Ruta no es una iniciativa aislada para China, sino que se sitúa en el contexto de la transformación de su economía y su proceso de internacionalización que la ha llevado a convertirse en la segunda economía del mundo, primer exportador mundial e inversor neto en el exterior. Este proceso no está desligado de la conectividad que propicia la Franja y la Ruta, basada en redes de transporte multimodal entre China y las diversas subregiones al interior de Asia y entre Asia, Europa y África. No se trata solo de ampliar el comercio, se trata más bien de un programa de integración física capaz de contribuir al desarrollo territorial de las zonas vinculadas por la infraestructura a través de corredores económicos. Siendo así, la estrategia latinoamericana tendría que considerar 2 temas, a mi juicio, de vital importancia. Primero, no se trata de construir proyectos de infraestructura aislados con inversión china. Se trata de construir corredores económicos, que son el concepto clave, y no solo implican infraestructura de conectividad, transportes, energía y comunicaciones, sino también producción en zonas económicas especiales y otros instrumentos con orientación al mercado mundial. Segundo, la base de la iniciativa, cuando menos en su concepción original, es la conectividad con China, lo que implica que no toda inversión en infraestructura es parte de la franja y la ruta. El tema debería centrarse en aquella infraestructura que tenga impacto en las relaciones transpacíficas, bajo el entendido de que la ampliación de esta iniciativa a América Latina supone en realidad la extensión al Pacífico de la ruta marítima de la seda del siglo XXI. Y en el Perú tenemos la importante inversión china que realiza la empresa COSCO Shipping Ports, como se ha mencionado, en el puerto de Chancay, al norte de Lima. Es la primera vez que China invierte en infraestructura portuaria en el Pacífico sudamericano, con la visión de convertir a Chancay en un puerto hub que tendrá impacto significativo en las rutas marítimas que utiliza el comercio entre América del Sur y Asia, volviéndolo más competitivo. Sin embargo, con base en las investigaciones que estamos realizando en nuestro centro de estudios, pensamos que habría que avanzar un paso más y adaptar la experiencia del modelo de los corredores económicos que China ha implementado en el Asia del Este, donde la infraestructura portuaria no solo sirve de hub, sino que se complementa con un desarrollo productivo en zonas económicas especiales, tales como parques industriales y tecnológicos, con inversión china para el mercado mundial. La idea sería implementar un corredor económico transpacífico con estas características que lo convertirían en una oportunidad de desarrollo. El tercer y último tema que señalé al inicio tiene que ver con otras investigaciones que hemos desarrollado, esta vez con pares chinos, sobre cómo evitar la llamada trampa del ingreso medio, analizando comparativamente los casos de China y del Perú. Ambos países compartimos la característica de ser economías de ingreso medio, según la clasificación del Banco Mundial que el Dr. Xu ha recordado. Y la denominada trampa del ingreso medio alude en la literatura económica a quedar atrapados en esta franja de ingresos y no poder alcanzar el grupo de las economías de ingreso alto. No hay un entendimiento único sobre sus factores causales, pero en síntesis se puede decir que se trata de una trampa de crecimiento, es decir, se refiere a la incapacidad de ciertos países de ingreso medio de mantener un crecimiento económico per cápita suficiente para alcanzar el estatus de economía de ingreso alto en un plazo de tiempo razonable. En la literatura económica también, la falta de crecimiento de la productividad aparece como el desafío central y posiblemente el principal factor causal de la trampa del ingreso medio. Durante décadas, China ha crecido a tasas muy grandes, como hemos visto, y no me ha quedado claro de la exposición del Dr. Xu si eso ha estado impulsado o no por el crecimiento alto y sostenido de la productividad. Me gustaría que volviera a ese punto. En todo caso, se espera que China sea parte en pocos años del grupo de las economías de ingreso alto, superando de esta forma la trampa del ingreso medio. Mientras tanto, el Perú está lejos de lograrlo, pues su trayectoria en materia de crecimiento del PBI per cápita y de la productividad ha sido más lenta y errática. En el caso chino, según el reporte del presidente Xi al 20 Congreso del Partido Comunista Chino, la meta para 2035 es alcanzar un ingreso per cápita equivalente a la media de las economías de ingreso alto. Sin embargo, hay dudas sobre si podrá lograrlo, dado que las tasas de crecimiento del PBI chino son y se proyectan significativamente más bajas que en el pasado. En todo caso, la pregunta sería, ¿qué lecciones aprendidas deja la experiencia china para otras economías emergentes? Me atrevería a sostener que además del énfasis en la modernización industrial, un factor clave es la planificación estratégica de largo plazo, que en China es sumamente importante, y en países como el Perú es prácticamente inexistente. Desde luego, los marcos institucionales son muy distintos, pero parece esencial marcar un rumbo y sostenerlo a largo plazo para alcanzar objetivos económicos trascendentes. Esas serían mis reflexiones. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, estimada Rosario. Muchas gracias a todos los panelistas por sus reflexiones y puntos de vista muy importantes acerca del futuro de la economía china y su impacto internacional y nacional. De hecho, sus diversas miradas nos han permitido tener una visión integral del tema. Y ahora procederemos, desde luego, a escuchar los comentarios finales del profesor Xu Bing. Dear Professor Xu Bing, you will have 15 minutes for your final remarks. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will make it short because we are already passing the time. I noticed that Ambassador Song has been there all the time until now. So I believe Ambassador Song and I were in the same generation, born in the 1960s, and we are considered to be the new generation for Mr. Song as a diplomat, for me as an academic. Okay, so now you get a flavor of the young generation born in the 60s from China, from two of us. Of course, Ms. Tao is younger. Okay, so in my belief, the younger generation will always do better than the older generation. Okay, so let me just comment briefly on the views of the panelists. Because of the technical problem, I did not hear Mr. Wagner's speech that well, but I believe that from the few words I heard, his focus is on geopolitical risk. And then, Professor Winkler's focus is more on this financial side in terms of actually the financial risks. And then Professor Rosillier, my friend, we met twice in Shanghai, and so she talks quite broadly about issues associated with the Sino-Pilot relationship and the emerging economies research. So let me say the following. I think all these angles are now very valid because I did my PhD at Columbia University in the United States, and I taught and worked in the US for 8 years. So I understand this Western economics quite well. It's more about analysis based on assumptions to push forward a new structure and a new model and a new evidence. Okay, while that is very useful, but that miss a lot of things which cannot be put into the model and run with data. Okay, I think we today should focus more on those things which cannot be easily measured, but which is getting more and more important, such as geopolitical risk, such as financial, transmission, and so on. Yes, we can try very hard to use this so-called modern methodology to study. But the more I study, I publish quite a lot of papers in top journals, the more I feel like we become narrow-minded, okay? So I think, at least at the current point for me, I can tell you that currently I'm doing a project which is research on a comparison between US 100 years from 1870 to 1970 with China 30 years from 1978 to 2008. Okay, China and the US are very, very different, but I find that their development path has a lot of similarities. Okay, of course we can call US growth path US style modernization, China's growth path Chinese style modernization. But while we should really focus on understanding the differences, isn't it true that we should also try to understand the common things, right? Especially for us Chinese, isn't it true that we should understand why US has been the #1 country in the world for this long, right? And what they do right, rather than just focus on what they do wrong, okay? Similarly, I think for the questions raised by the two professors, and also, put into context by Ms. Tao, in the practical context, I think we really wanted to take a shall I say, deductive angle, try to be a little bit historical, philosophical, institutional thinking to dig out certain common elements that were behind the success or failure of certain countries, such as China, the US. Remember the slide I showed you for the 43 years of China's spectacular growth. You look at the slide, you will have the slide if you want. I have shared that with the colleagues on your side. You can see that the US has been growing faster than Europe, right? And Japan has dropped to a very, very, we call last 2 decades. And Brazil used to be richer than China, not to mention Venezuela, which was considered to be as rich as the United States 100 years back. See where they are, right? So I think studying these things, even though these papers may not be able to be published in the Western top journals, it will generate insights, okay, for us moving towards the future, okay? I think that's what this forum, the value it carries. And this is exactly what we at CEIBS is practicing. After I moved from US to China about now 16 years ago, and also along with my colleagues, most of them returned from either US, Canada, or Europe, Australia, and we all have been learning what we did not learn during our time in the West. That is to understand China, to link our theory more closely to practice. We cannot be Ms. Tao, who is running this on a daily basis. But as an academic, if we restrict ourselves too much, especially for those of us who have already established our academic position, we should really do something new and more risky. And so I certainly appreciate today's opportunity to hear the views from the president of your university, from respected Ambassador Song, and from the very experienced old hand, Mr. Wagner in international affairs, from Ms. Tao, who is on the frontier of doing business, contributing to the business relations between China and Pillow and Latin America, and to the two professors who are really practicing what I'm proposing, try to study more closely issues that were missed by the so-called mainstream Western literature. You know? So we can continue. I think I learned quite a lot from today's forum. Now I understand why Ambassador Song, stayed until now, and there must be some value, and that is really, revealing that Ambassador Song is a person who is curious about new things, and I think China will move to newer generation, younger than Ambassador Song and me, even younger than Mrs. Tao already. Although Ms. Tao will continue to always be young, but we have younger generation. Believe me, they will be more open-minded. They will be dealing with the challenges in better ways than the old hands, and we are going to have a better future. Yes, we have a world which is having lousy news every minute, but I think we may not have heard enough those positive voices. That is mainly among the silent majority of people. Okay, so I hope that we gather our energy, towards this majority people who will not lie down, who are the basis for vitality. I'm sure that I see today everybody here is very vital. I'm hoping that this vitality will be passing towards our audience and towards a more, wider audience, as I learned that this forum will be made certain videos. So we are living in this very much easy communicating world through this new technology. Why don't we communicate more? So my final word is that let's build trust, among each other. Let's put aside different views, but understand why the other people are having the different views. Let's find a common ground, and let's not only focus on our own career as a diplomat, as a professor, as a business executive, but open our heart, okay, to do more for the world, okay? Thank you very much for allowing me to have such a prominent role in today's forum. Although I have used to it, but through this Pacific Ocean, and it's the first time for me. Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Song, and thank you all for inviting me. I enjoyed every minute, despite the technical difficulty. Thank you again.
Thank you, Professor Xubing, and thank you all as well, all our panelists and Ambassador Song Yang for your great participation and sharing. We invite Ambassador Song Yang, Professor Xubing, and all the panelists to take a picture of the event, please. So
let me try my camera to have a better view. Let me see. I think I try. Because when you get older, you like to have this memory more. Okay.
Okay. Let's take a picture. Great. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation once again. On behalf of the Center for China and Asia Pacific Studies at Universidad del Pacífico, and of course, China-Europe International Business School, we thank you, everyone, for your participation in this event. A nombre del Centro de Estudios sobre China y Asia Pacífico de la Universidad del Pacífico y China-Europe International Business School, les agradecemos a todos por su presencia y participación y será hasta una nueva oportunidad. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose. You
Thank
do a
Thank
good
you.
job. Okay.
Thank you. See
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah.
See
See
you.
you,
Thank you.
and hopefully in
Gracias.
person. Okay, hopefully in person. Ambassador Song, best luck for your new position. Thank you.